Good day, duelists, and welcome to this Kaijudo unboxing. Today we will be unboxing not one, but a grand total of 5 decks, one for each civilization. They released this series of decks all at once back in 2012, and I guess the point of them was just that you would pick one or more of them up, and they would each represent the identity of their civilization and help you find the one that really spoke to you. I haven't seen these before, so I don't know what they contain, but as far as I understand, they are pretty simplistic, so I don't expect them to contain any crazy powerhouse cards, just very basic ones, since these were meant to be more of a starter product. And without further ado, because we do have a lot to open today, let's just get into the first one, Light. On the box itself you get a very short summary of what the deck does: offense through defense, Light Civilization. And on the back it says, unleash your power, play Kaijudo and duel with an army of mind-blowing creatures from 5 civilizations, become a master, build a deck of spells and creatures of your own strategy, and unleash the power of Kaijudo. And I think this is it's the exact same text that's being said on all of them, so the only text difference is on the front of the box. And I guess we can just open it up and see what it contains. So this is of course a 40 card deck of only Light Civilization cards, I would assume. I will try to go through these a bit fast because we do have a lot of decks to unbox, but let's just see this little leaflet that you get at the very start. Well, I will only be taking a look at this once because presumably it's the same one for each one. Yeah, it teaches you the basics of the game because again this was meant to be a starter product. It tells you about spells and creatures, the setup, the battle zone, the turn order, and on the back you have a description of you see all of the 5 civilization decks, and then it says, unleash your power now, play Kaijudo and duel with an army of my... Oh, this is the same text that we have read before. And over here you do have the structure decks that were released early on, which were supposed to be the next step forward from these. Like, these were just the very basic cheap decks that would get you sort of invested into one civilization, and then once you were invested you could go into a starter deck and pick one of those up for more complexity. And of course then the next step is buying booster packs to upgrade the deck and make it your own. And over here we have, oh man, we have Kaijudo Online. Do you remember Kaijudo Online? You could, like, they had an online client in which you could play the Kaijudo game, which was so ahead of this time. This was like years before Hearthstone came about. I really wish they leaned more into this. I think if they leaned more into this, it could have been a way more successful product. But that's a story for another time. We are here to open some packs. So we have Megris, the Magnetizer, 1 mana 500, and then, oh, it's actually not full light, it's light plus water, so I guess in each of these the main civilization is being represented, but it's also combined with something else. We have 3 Ice Blades, which is like a Spiral Gate, but only for creatures that cost 4 or less. Then we have Starlight Strategist as our finisher, I guess. It is a double breaker. Whenever this creature or one of your Skyforce champions enters the battle zone, tap target enemy creature. That's not all that bad, considering you do have some Skyforce champions to play with it. Then Killing Bullfang is just a 6 mana 6000 vanilla double breaker. This is something that they did in Kaijudo that I kind of felt was a bit weird, is that just some cards were just worse than others, right? Like, I get that Light is supposed to be, you know, a better civilization stat-wise, but, you know, you could have made it a 6 mana 7000, I don't think anyone would have been angry. Then we have Aqua Soldier, 2 mana 1000, Teleport, return target creature from the battle zone to its owner's hand, draw a card. One thing that I will say is that I really like the fact that they are giving you playsets of these cards. Stalker Sphere, it's a 2 mana 2000. It's really nice that it's not just a random deck of some random ass one-offs. You do get playsets of these cards, so if you want to actually play these decks, you will have a consistent, cohesive experience, which I really like. We do have some blockers in Sunstalk Seed, 2 mana 3000 power creature. Perimeter Drone is a 4 mana 4000 vanilla. Sunshock, it's just Sun Ray from Duel Masters, I think it's the same, yeah, it taps target enemy creature. Spy Mission, it's a shield blast that draws you 2 cards. Luminar, again, it's a 3 mana 3000. A lot of enforcers here. Again, another one, Blinder Beetle, it's an enforcer, 3 mana 1000. And that's relevant because later on, if you wanted to upgrade this deck, there's a really good enforcer evolution in Kaijudo called Blinder Beetle Prime. So it's really nice that you are getting, you know, this. You are getting Stalker Sphere as well. So many enforcers that you could evolve on top of. And then another enforcer in Halon, and this is sort of more of a finisher in 5 mana 5000. So nothing special in this deck. I mean, it is supposed to be very, very basic. I do kind of like the fact that it's multi-civ. It makes it more interesting. Of course, there's more light cards, but there's still some 5, 8, 9, 12, 14 water cards to mix things up. I guess that does make it a bit more interesting, and it leads to more fun while playing, maybe. I guess there's not that many cards that you can include in a mono light deck, especially this early on in the game's life cycle, so they decided to go with this dual civ approach. Overall, I can see this deck being playable. That's all that you really want from these starter products, that you have a deck that can win, can play out things, and of course it can, you know. I think if you get a start like turn 1 Magdris, turn 2 Stalker Sphere, and then turn 2 Luminar, you're already in a really good spot. You can of course use Blinder Beetle to tap some things, you have some finishers, you have some card draw, you have some bounce. Overall, cool deck. For a starter product, for a player that's only learning the basics, I think it does the job, and I think it kind of does a decent job as well at exposing the strength or the identity of the Light Civilization, because it does have a lot of these blockers and tap to take advantage of the fact that these blockers can attack creatures. Moving on to the next one, we have Water. Knowledge is power. Let's see this one. I find it kind of interesting that the very first card of the Water deck is a Darkness card, but yeah, there we go. So they decided to pair up Water with Darkness, which I suppose makes sense since those are allied colors. We have the same, is it the same? Yeah, it's the same leaflet in this one that we have in all of the other ones, so I won't be showing this from here on out. And we have a Shadow Champion, Draxar the Soul Crusher. We have 3 of these guys, which, ew, I mean, it's a 5 mana 4000 and they're giving you 3 of them. Logo Scan, very cool card. It's just energy stream from Duel Masters. Bone Blades, it's a Terror Pit, but it can only be used on creatures that are level 4 or less. This does look to be a lot more of a control deck. Yeah, you have Ice Blade as well. Then we have Hydrospire, which is the massacred version of Aqua Halcus. It draws your card when it enters the battle zone, but it costs 4 mana and it has 1000 power. King Bullfang that we saw in the other one as well. It does seem like there's a lot of overlap between the decks, like between the water sections, which I'm not really sure I like, but I guess there's only so many water cards released up until this point. Fogzuka and Refi in terms of blockers, then some more really bad vanillas. But we do have Zagan, the Bone Knight, which again is a 6 mana 7000. I mean, it's just straight up better than King Bullfang. Aqua Seneschal, this was a card that was very impactful in Kaijudo because whenever it attacks, you can draw a card. Then we have Gorgeon, Shadow of Gluttony, and it's like a Bloody Skeeto from Duel Masters, but it's 3 mana for 5000. Fjorgil Mantra is just another blocker, so a lot of blockers in this deck actually. We already have quite some of them. Brain Squirmer is just a vanilla, and then we have Rusalka Aqua Chaser, which is just Unicorn Fish from Duel Masters. So definitely this deck is going into more of a control direction, removing things with Bone Blades or bouncing them with Ice Blade, I suppose, and trying to draw many cards with Hydra Spy, Aqua Seneschal, Logo Scan. I'm gonna be honest, I don't think I like this deck as much as the light one, but I really don't know. Maybe one of these days I will get to play them against each other, and if I do, I will make sure to post some videos of that. But overall, yeah, just the fact that it has worse vanillas, I think makes it just a little bit worse. But if you want to upgrade it, I think this is a solid starting point, because cards like Bone Blades are absolute staples. You have Logo Scans, you have Aqua Chaser, you have Aqua Seneschal, you have Hydro Spy, Ice Blade, you have a lot of really solid cards. You just need to replace all of the shitty vanillas. Overall, I'm not sure if this really exposes the strengths of the Water Civilization all that well. I mean, it kind of does, in the sense that you have, you know, bounce and you have card draw, but it does feel to me like this would play out more like a Darkness deck more than anything else, because you are looking to control the board a lot. Although, let's see, because next up we have the Darkness deck, so maybe I'm just way off on this one. Let's see how this one would play out on the night. So let's see what we have in here, and again the top card is just a fire card. We have the same playmat or leaflet that we had before, and Snaptongue Lizard. This is already a 5 mana 5000, right, which is much better than the vanillas we saw in the other one, which were just 5 mana for 4000. So Darkness they've paired up with fire, which does make sense. Oh no, we have again the 5 mana 4000. Ooh, but we have Boattail Dragon, 8 mana 7000, fast attack double breaker. Interesting. Gigargon. Oh, this is just an 8 mana 9000 vanilla. It no longer revives things like in Duel Masters. We have some more vanillas. And of course Bone Blades, which we would have expected to see here. Dream Pirate, it's a blocker that can attack, but after it attacks it banishes itself. Then we have Fumes or Fumes, however you want to read it. It's 4 mana 2000 that can discard a card from the opponent's hand, though notably of their choice. Still a really good card if you're looking for card advantage. We have again the same bad vanillas in Graveworm Hatchling. Vorgs for, you know, some more vanillas. Dark Returns, which can return things from grave, obviously. Skeeter Swarmer. Then we have Rock Bite, which is some extra removal, and actually that's a lot of removal between the Bone Blades and the Rock Bites. Then we have some Acid Tongue Chimera, which is just a 5 mana for 3000 Slayer. And lastly, we have Stoneazores, which is just a Power Attacker 2000. And honestly now, I do think the Water deck showcases the Darkness Civilization better, or at least the Darkness playstyle, because it does feel way more control-y than this one. And this deck does have a lot of removal in Rockbite and Bone Blades and Fumes that sort of discards the opponent's hand. But realistically speaking, like, what are you really showing from the Darkness Civilization? You have like one discard card and Bone Blades that we see everywhere. And I guess we also have the Slayers, but I'm not really sure that a player looking to play the Darkness Civilization would really get like the full picture of what Darkness does from this deck. I do like the Boattail Dragon though. This is a cool finisher, especially for like a slower format where you're sort of trying to build up to things. Next up we have Fire, and for Fire it says attack first, think later. So of course we are expecting to see a bit of a rush deck, and the card at the front does confirm that. The card that we see first is a Blaze Belcher, which is just Deadly Fighter Braidclaw from Duel Masters. Of course, a very hyper aggressive card, has to attack if able. Then Kenya the Igniter, when this creature enters the battle zone, choose one of your other creatures, it gets powerful attack plus 2000 until the end of turn, not bad. Then we have another 2-drop creature, so far a very early aggressive board which we would expect to see from the Fire Civilization. Getting Skyterror, they made him a 3 mana 3000, this is just sad. We have Return to Soil, which puts a creature that is level 4 or lower into the mana zone. It's a Rumbling Pterosaur, 5 mana 5000 vanilla. Then Splinter Claw Wasp, I think this was just the Deathblade Beetle from Duel Masters, wasn't it? 5 mana 3000, power attack plus 4000 and double breaker. Carnivorous Dahlia, it's a skirmisher, which means it can't attack players. A bit weird to see this one in a deck that's supposed to be like full aggro, right? We have Vorg for more 2-drops. Super Bazooka Volcanodon, it's a 3 mana 1000 with powerful attack for 4000. And of course we have the Bowshack Dragon showcased in this deck. Then we have Meteorosaur, which is the same effect as in Duel Masters. Power Surge, which gives every creature plus 2000 power. Rock Bite, which is more removal. And Pyro Trooper, which is just a 4 mana 3000 power attacker plus 2000. So, In terms of showcasing what fire is supposed to do, I think the deck does a great job. You have this early aggression cards. I mean, you have Blaze Belcher and then you have a grand total of 9 2-drops, which should mean that you see one on turn 2 quite consistently. Then of course fire is known for power, for power boosting, powerful attacker, and they have a bunch of that. They have Kenya, they have Power Surge to showcase all of that. And you have Bolshak Dragon as a nice little finisher. I definitely do think that this deck is built maybe a little bit better than some of the others. And you can definitely snatch some aggressive wins with it. There are some cards that don't make sense, like I'm not really sure why this card is in here. Don't get me wrong, it's a good card, but it's like sort of the opposite of what the Fire Civilization is trying to accomplish, right? So there we go. And moving on to our final deck, it is the Nature one, which if we're following the color pie should mean that, yeah, there's some light creatures in it. And this is a bit weird to see. First of all, okay, it's a light card at the front, but it's a 6 mana 6500, and if we're going back to the darkness deck, okay, never mind, it's not in the darkness deck, it had to be in the water deck then. This is kind of what I meant about the water deck doing a better representation of darkness, but there we go. We have Zagan, Knight of Darkness, which if we compare it to this card, right, it's just a stronger vanilla, which is a bit weird because traditionally, Darkness is supposed to have the bad vanillas, so why is it better than Light that's supposed to have the good vanillas? And they're the same rarity too, so even that doesn't make sense. I don't know. The design consistency was just a bit off to me in Kaijudo, but it is what it is. So we have Astinos the Cloud Knight. The battle isn't over yet, send in Astinos. Sniper Mosquito, which they just made a 4 mana 4000 vanilla. Then Brave Giant, poor Brave Giant. It's a 7 mana 7000 double breaker. It's just so bad. It's 1 mana more expensive than Zagan. And again, nature is supposed to be having good vanillas, right? So I don't know why they're doing it like this. Return to Soil. Then we have Sprout. I was curious if we were going to see some ramp cards because that's what nature is supposed to be known for, right? So we have Sprout in terms of ramp, we have Razor Hide, which ramps you every time it attacks, and we have some light blockers, which I'm very happy to see. Keeper of Clouds is one of the better ones. Karate Carrot, again, it can ramp you up when it is banished. And it's interesting because it's a 4 mana 3000 with power attacker plus 2000. So it's just like the fire one, the Fire Sweeper Burning Hellion, but it also has this effect, which is not insignificant. So, I'm not really sure like where the power level bar is supposed to be, right? Rumbling Pterosaur, again, 5 mana 5000, Splinter Claw Wasp, Ambush Scorpion, just more vanillas, Perimeter Drone, more vanillas, again, Fear Fang, more vanillas, and some light blockers in Thunder Chaser and Sunshock as a tap card to round things off. Overall, there's only 8 ramp cards, which is not that bad, but overall, again, I'm not really sure if you would get a good feeling of the identity of the Nature Civilization from this deck. That's not to say it's a bad deck, it does have some things going for it, it's a bit weird, and especially Sprout in a deck that's supposed to be very creature heavy feels a bit weird. And these were all of the decks unboxed. Overall, some decks do a good job of representing their identity, some decks less so, some decks are better, some decks are worse. I'm not really sure if the consistency is there across all of the decks, but I would be definitely looking forward to playing them against each other and having a more practical look at things. That being said, that's all from me, Duelists, and until next time, take care.